first cookie I decorated in my Bumblebee birthday set is this white daisy flower cookie using outline icing with a figure of 8 pattern to ensure that the petals are of equal width. Use outline icing to make squiggles prior to immediately flooding over those squiggles to prevent craters. I used outline consistency icing for the pink part, followed with outline consistency yellow so that the yellow would stand up. To decorate the bumblebee, I outlined the bee in all yellows. This is a time saver because you won't see the outlines once everything's filled in with flood icing. I used squiggles for the yellow because my yellow flood was a little bit on the thin side, and then I immediately followed with black thick flood icing right next to the yellow sections. That helps them blend next to each other nicely. Allow this part to dry for about 20 minutes before adding the wing. Here I used pink flood, allowed that to dry, and then used a white outline for decoration. For my honey pot cookie, I outlined and flooded the top part of the cookie pink and allowed that to dry for a couple of hours before airbrushing a subtle pearl sheen honeycomb design. Next, I filled in the rest of the cookie with yellow and then allowed that to dry. I added on my final touches with a brown outline bow. And then I used a flower nail with a 101 tip and thick icing, just making circular flowers. Allow the flower to dry before transferring to the cookie and personalize as you please. For the Beehive cookie, I used an edible food pen by Sweet Sugar Belle to guide my lines. Then I used a piping tip to imprint in the cookie so that I would know where I wanted my opening to be and also to be able to make a circle as best as possible. Outline the entire cookie and then fill in every other section with outline squiggles prior to flooding them. This helps prevent craters as the cookie dries. Allow these sections to crust over for about 20 minutes or so before moving on to the next sections. You're going to use the same process with squiggles followed by flood icing. Once this part is done, I used a brown thick flood to make the branch. I allowed this little branch portion to dry for about 20-30 minutes before moving on to my green leaves. Here I used a 101 tip to pipe on the leaves. Such a cute cookie. This #1 cookie was the most detailed cookie. I filled in the outer portion with yellow and allowed that to crust over for about 20 minutes before filling in with flood white. Allow this to dry for about 2 to 3 hours before moving to the next part where I airbrushed. I made a homemade blocker so that I wouldn't get yellow airbrush on the yellow portion. I used pink thick flood followed by an intricate edible to imprint the honeycomb pattern on the balloon. Next, I made little bumblebee icing transfers, attached those to the cookie, and then I made another circular flower using my flower nail and a 101 piping tip with thick white icing. Allow this to dry completely before attaching to the cookie with icing. Then I made a little bumblebee pattern with a Tweets Cookie Connection food pen. And here you have it, such an adorable bumblebee birthday set.